Thank you, PJ. It is time for another edition of the Pair and a Spare podcast. I'm Justin Gaard from The Fan. He's back. Ryan Burns, Randy Byrne, is on assignment from GopherIllustrated.com. And Chip Scoggins from Football Across Minnesota, which I read today and was very good. This is the Pair and a Spare podcast, and we're brought to you by our good friends at Jack's Cafe. How's everybody doing? Everybody good this week? Chip voted back in July, so he took care of that. Burnsie, have you voted yet on this election day as we record it?
No, I haven't voted this morning yet. We'll do it after work with the missus, but hearing Chip voted probably around, I don't know, Independence Day, Chip? Is that what you got in your vote?
When did it open up that you could start doing?
We have no idea.
Well, did you mail it in or did you go in person?
No, I did in person. I think it was sometime in October. I can't remember when it was, but it was, seamless, walk right in.
I'm sure the polling place opened at 9 a.m. that day. Chip got there at 5. Wanted to make sure.
I was there early. There was no wait. They welcomed me in. Hey, how about the photo that one of your readers, the picture.
The Randy Byrne one.
I want that shirt. We got to get a shirt made of that thing.
Yeah, we need that.
That was awesome.
We need that T-shirt. Did you tweet that out yet?
No, I'll tweet it off the Pair and Spare account here.
It's so great. I wish I had the technology savvy to be able to do that, because that was outstanding. Whoever made that.
Well, Chip, I'd also say there's a conspiracy theory going around on my site that you're actually one of the most active members there in this whole technology bit. If you don't know what you're doing, you're actually an NSA agent and one of the most technologically savvy people we've ever met. And this is all an act. Can you imagine that, for the amount of interactions we've had where he puts on the readers, brings it right here, and it's just, there's not a shot, Chip.
I wish that was the case. I wish I was a double agent where I could really understand technology. But no, that is not me. I do get on your site, though, occasionally, and when you tweet or when you text us stuff like that, I had to go find it. So that was outstanding.
You do fit the profile of some type of secret government spy.
Just kind of blend in.
Yeah, you blend in. You're gone mysteriously. We never know if you're going to be able to be here for a Tuesday podcast.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that actually make sense about you being a government spy. So I think it warrants further investigation, and maybe we'll do that.
Well, we even got the Guardsy appreciation thread going, unprompted by some of the members as well. I'm sure you shed a tear.
Yeah, you sent that to me. You want to talk about, does Guardsy have a burner account? I don't think I could have written that ode to Guardsy any better myself. Yeah, I showed it to Grimm because he's not.
I have to go find it. What was it?
He, like Chip, is also not very technologically savvy. And so I had to show it to Grimm because he got some good he got some flowers thrown his way too. So yeah, that was nice. That was nice. Yeah,
I'll go look for that.
Good job.
Yeah.
That's people always ask me about, do I like going to the state fair with KFAN? I say yes, because it's the opposite of social media. Social media, you only hear how bad you suck all the time.
That's right. Yeah.
The state fair, people actually come up to you and say, "Hey, we like you. We like your show. We listen to you." It's like a 2-week tire pump for the ego. So, yeah, that was good. I do want to start the show, though, with an apology, guys. I need to apologize, and this has been weighing on me for a couple of days. It's been weighing on me probably since last Thursday. I want to officially and completely apologize to Ryan's mom because the Halloween thing, the Halloween baby thing has taken on such a life of its own. We were sending each other the tweets back and forth on Halloween. The one about Burnsy's about to have a much younger brother. When the snowfall started coming down on Thursday, and we thought maybe for a minute we were going to have 30, however many years later. How old are you, Burnsie?
I'm 32.
So 32 years later, 33 years later, another Halloween blizzard, and Ryan was about to have a much younger brother or sister. That was the one that did it for me. But I feel like we need to apologize to Ryan's mom because she's catching strays in this whole thing. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing the next Halloween, but I just want, for the record, I do feel somewhat bad about Ryan having to explain to his mom why the Halloween blizzard thing has become an inside joke. Yeah, so that's a public apology to Mrs. Burnsie.
Yeah, she'll never listen to this, so you're fine. I'll pass along your regards. I tell you, I probably got like 15 tweets. So, look, it's my fault for bringing it up. I think it's in good fun, but yeah, the amount of
Oh, it's in
people
great fun.
that once it started snowing on Halloween, the amount of people that were like, "Have you called your mom?" And it's good, it's the answer, and it's like, goodness gracious.
Just remember, there was no candy at the Burnsie household because on Halloween the lights are out. The lights are out. The kids just have to skip that house on Halloween year after year after year. All right, should we talk football? The Gophers finally did it. I like how you phrased it, Burnsie. They finally conquered Mount Bielema. They got to the top. They finally knocked off the old Badger coach, the current Illini coach. It was gritty. It was ugly. It was grimy. It really was Big Ten West football, I thought, at its best on Saturday in Champaign. Burnsie, you were there. We'll start with you. You've had a couple of days to decompress and digest, and I assume watch it a time or two again. How did the Gophers get it done to finally pick up a really big and important victory when you factor in where they are in the standings now and everything?
Well, I think their offensive line probably had their best day of the season, and that's with a brand new right tackle, Philip Daniels making his first career start, which slid Quinn Carroll inside, and wouldn't you know it, Quinn Carroll is the PFF's right guard of the week across the entire game of college football because he played so well. Greg Johnson played really well. I mean, you look at the rushing numbers for them, even that Darius Taylor long touchdown run, you're able to see Greg Johnson get to the second level, bury a guy into the turf, which is something he did frequently at Prior Lake. But if you're going to beat Bret Bielema, you better be really good up front. And I thought Minnesota was good enough on the defensive line to make some splash plays, which we can talk about Ja Joyner only playing 18 snaps. But I think it comes down to the offensive line playing well. And then for the umpteenth straight time in the fourth quarter, Chip, Max Brosmer didn't have his best day.
Yeah.
But what does he do in the fourth quarter? He delivers on some really key throws and leads Minnesota to a touchdown drive.
Yeah, I mean the deep ball to Jackson was just beautiful. You can't throw that one any better. Perfect timing too. But to me, I watched that game and I have already had a huge appreciation for this guy, but I thought Darius Taylor was outstanding. I mean,
that's one of the best days. When people ask you about Darius Taylor going forward, this is going to be a game to me where you're like, this is where he really started to separate himself.
Yeah, I'm going to write about him later this week. That I've covered all the special backs here in the last 20 years, and they're all different. But his patience and footwork and vision to be able to cut those runs backside, and there was one. It was 3rd and 4 where he's running parallel to the line. He should have been lost. It should have been a 5-yard loss. And now the announcers are saying that Ursary held on it, but he put his foot in and got upfield and got the first down, like a key first down. I can't remember if they got points on that drive or what, but I just thought he was the best player on the field. I thought catching the ball, running the ball. It wasn't a monster game probably statistically, but I thought he was just really, really good. And then the other guy, I thought Anthony Smith was that's the guy that you've been wanting to see for a long time. I thought he was so impactful defensively. And the other guy, kind of quietly, I thought had a really good game, Spencer. Big catches. I mean, he was money. That guy is really after last season, I got to be honest, going into this season, I was like, I don't know. I mean, he had a lot of drops. It didn't live up to the hype that what we saw in training camp last year. But he's really turned into a really, really good number 2 receiver for them.
Well, if we're going to stick on Darius for a second, 31 touches for 189 yards at touchdown, 9 receptions, including some huge third downs.
Yeah.
One where they put him out wide on the linebacker. He runs a stop-and-go comeback. I can guarantee Darius Taylor has only run that route a couple of times in his life. Now, we go back to he was a high school receiver and all, but huge play there. Then you have the option route where he gets on another third down. But here's the thing I want to run past you guys is, as much as it is about Darius, and we talk about the 31 touches, this is only the second game he's had over 25 touches this season, which I think is outstanding.
Yeah.
Because to me, that proved that Fleck and Harbaugh figured out maybe we should stop running guys into the ground in October so that when we get to November, which is now Darius Taylor's, that was his 8th consecutive game that he's played in. Yeah, he's not at 100%. I think there were 3 different stoppages where he had to get escorted off the field to then see Guardsy's face on the sideline, seeing if he got attention or not. But they're finally limiting his touches to where in a big spot game, in a road game, ranked road game in the Big Ten, and against a coach you haven't beat, you can then throttle him up. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, and they're different touches. I mean, he has 43 catches, which is the second most for a running back in college football. So those are 43 different touches versus handing the ball off and taking, slamming into a line and having, 8 or 9, whatever guys he has to, they're going to try to drill him there, where you may have one tackle or you may get out of bounds. So I think they're different touches, but I think PJ probably also said, hey, he's not Mo.
Right.
We can't treat every running back like Mo. Mo was just a different running back than we've seen in terms of workload and being able to just give him the ball 100 times a game. It's better to manage Darius in a way that allows him to, be able to play in November and not have to sit out. And so they've been smart about it. But I think just the different touches with using him as a receiver is really smart, and also it's helped the quarterback. And you mentioned the third down. I mean, it felt like every time he touched it, it was an important down. It was getting the first down. I would love to see how many of his touches went for a first down, because either as a run or a pass. Yeah.
Skipper. I think it was 11 or 12 of his 31 touches resulted in either a touchdown or a first down.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, that just tells you how but you're right. I think they came in with a different plan this year.
I would also say that the fact that they have other guys that can impact the game, that they've spread it around to all season. It used to be you needed a running back. I think about like David Cobb, like you had Max Williams, but you didn't have a ton after that. Drew Latarski or KJ May would be your guy. And you didn't have a quarterback that could throw it like Max. Like they have other guys, whether it's Daniel Jackson or Elijah Spencer or the tight ends, like they can move the ball without having to just give it to the running back and say, go get us 5 yards of carry. So that's been beneficial, but it took them 9 games. But PJ's been saying all year, we need to be able to throw to run the ball this year. And this was the first time a defensive staff actually said, you know what, they're going to throw first. They want to throw the ball a lot. We need to make it tougher on their quarterback. We need to make it tougher on their wide receivers. Burnsie, you know the all 22 better than me, but I have to imagine that was as few run blitzes straight up that we've seen all year. I have to imagine that's as even a box as they've seen in a really long time, because they weren't going to let Brosmer just sit back there and throw it, 30 for 35 times for 300 yards like Maryland was so strangely willing to do. So the Gophers, to their credit, stayed patient with the run game, and they, I thought, got huge dividends because of it.
Yeah, I mean, they, on third down specifically, where Minnesota goes 7 of 15 on the day, Chip, on the 15 third downs, their average distance to go was 7 yards. So they had 15 different, essentially, third and longs, and they converted 7 of them, which is wild.
That's crazy, yeah.
But with the run game stuff, I mean, yeah, they finally were able to run into some more even boxes. Now, it helps that Illinois' best linebacker leaves the game early. I believe he has a dislocated ankle now, which is unfortunate for him. But take Cody Lindenberg off this Gopher linebacking core, just like that player was for Illinois. Yeah, I'd be running directly at his replacement too. But you wanted to see the offensive line step up, and you wanted to see what Phillip Daniels looked like and Quinn Carroll and all these guys moving around a little bit. And I think they answered the bell with, if your offensive line is finally playing consistently into November, that's exactly where you want them to be.
Burns, did they get their best 5 out there finally?
I think so, which is, you know what the biggest takeaway yesterday was from the press conference, other than some Rutgers talk, was PJ's talking glowingly about Quinn Carroll and his leadership and how Phillip Daniels did. And so I immediately hit him with a follow-up of, okay, so are you going to give Phillip Daniels right tackle going forward if Carroll wants to stay at guard, and he played really well there? Fleck actually said yes. Since when in the year of our Lord 2024 is PJ Fleck actually giving discernible depth chart updates? He's turning a new leaf. Look at him.
Yeah. Well, the proof's in the, was he going to say no? We're going back after they have that performance. Yeah.
Well, usually he'll go, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, he'll say something like, we'll see. We've got some other guys we like too. We'll see.
90 minutes before kickoff.
I just love how Burnsie, because this is Burnsie's job, right? This is Burnsie's life. He is entrenched in Gopher football coverage, recruiting, and the current team. That the littlest slights, Chip, that you and I don't think about much more than like 5 minutes after the fact, after maybe like a joke when somebody loses.
5 seconds.
Burnsie just sits and it just festers forever.
all day long.
All day, all life. It's just 24/7, 365, whether it's special teams, whether it's injury updates, whether it's depth chart stuff.
Yeah.
It just festers with them, and he
I
can't.
know.
Your brain must just be this permanent doom scroll of things that TJ Flex says that you don't like, because you can't help yourself but just – you don't scratch that itch. You bulldoze that itch every single day.
Well, it's just like you wish he was a little bit more transparent, but again, at the end of the day, well, that's where I've gotten a lot of anti-Fleck talk thrown at me since this win, which has been very strange to me. I just wish he was a little bit more transparent like some of the other coaches, but it is what it is.
Like, how many other coaches?
Yeah.
Like, how many other coaches?
Bielema this week, because PJ doesn't give any, he was the one who was like, you'll find out 2 hours ahead of time. And then, like, the moment, Guardsy, you guys landed, and he's like, Bielema's timing out when the Gophers land. And then he's like, yeah, Pat Bryant's going to play. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just like, these cases, man.
I do like how he tweeted out the update. I thought that was pretty clever. For those that missed it, Bret Bielema sent out a nice home message. Scott Studwell, former Illini, gave a great message. They all have a former player come and talk to the team, the whole bit.
Yeah.
And looking forward to seeing everybody there. And then he named the 3 players that were questionable all week. Hey, they're going to play. We'll show up to Memorial Stadium. I did like that. That was very cool. That was fun.
Including Pat Bryant, who's wearing sunglasses during the week at practice, is somehow cleared before a game of the concussion protocol. Which, all right,
I've heard before, by the way, on concussion stuff. There's a reason why in football the protocol is 5 days. There's a reason why they set it at 5 days. It just so happens that clock starts on Sunday and they could potentially be cleared on Friday. And that was directly said to me by someone years ago. There's a reason why the protocol was set at 5 days. Let's just leave it at that. And if you have and every concussion's different. There's some I've heard that if someone gets really knocked out and hit, they say that's almost better because the brain just like resets. It's like a computer. It's like my computer, Burnsie, when we were trying to record on Saturday night and it just restarted out of nowhere. It says it's worse if you're just like kind of dizzy and kind of like those are the ones that like mess around. I don't know what Bryant's was, but the point of that was it's possible for someone to come back that quickly depending on what type of concussion they have. And that's why they have that protocol is if they're good. And
the last Gopher player that returned in a week, because Minnesota had 2 players miss because of the concussion protocol this week. Tyler Cooper and Zaquan Bryan got banged up the previous week, and I think every single player I've heard about having a concussion has missed this year for the Gophers. Now, to your point, as someone who, including myself, who has had, I think I've had 4 concussions in my life. Every one of them was different with how long it was to return to play. But I would say I'd love to know what the hit rate is at Illinois in terms of returning in 1 week on concussion versus Minnesota.
Wow, another thing he's been thinking about.
What am I, Bret Bielema going after the, quote, clown show officiating crew?
Yeah, what did we think about the officiating? He was mad about a couple of different things during that game. I couldn't believe they let him talk to them for so long on one of them.
And they give him this timeout back. Well,
yeah, that was very strange.
So I don't think he called timeout. I think they anticipated. I don't know what the officiating crew did, but the fact that that thing went on forever, that conversation, and it was very heated. And then there's no flag, and he's getting his timeout back. It was just basically, okay, do over. Let's just,
I was watching him the whole game, and he was just berating the sideline guy to the point where in the fourth quarter, I remember looking down, and the sideline officials got his back to him. He finally turns around, and it looked like Guardsy scolding his oldest son for eating too much candy. And I was thinking to myself, and I turned to, I think, Randy Johnson, your colleague there, and I was like, I've never seen that before where an official turns around and it looks like he's just berating Bielema back, but that's the way he was all day with that officiating crew.
He'd had enough. At some point, you have to say, I've had enough. We're not going to keep doing that job would be to have to stand on the sideline by the coaches, and no matter who throws a flag, you're getting it, right? You're getting the full brunt of their tirade. And so, but yeah, I'm sure that official just said, I've had enough of this. I'm going to snap too.
Well, I'll just tell you from my experience, enough gets said all the time.
Yeah.
Turn around. That's enough. Like
I've heard you. Yeah.
Enough. If this keeps going, we're throwing the flag. Basically, it's implied.
Yeah.
No, it's because they're always arguing about something. And then what's always funny is they'll call each other the worst of names, and then there'll be a timeout on the field, and then they'll talk. And then by the end of it, they're laughing and smiling. It's like the most bizarre relationship ever.
Yeah,
in that they're trying to work together. But you just got screamed at and sworn at 30 seconds ago, and now you're laughing and smiling. It's just it's an unnatural way to go about life, but that's sports, and
these guys are
not real life.
These guys are probably so callous to it, right? All the things that they've been called and heard and said over the years. I mean, if they've done it for 10 years, imagine the things that they've heard. And
I've been next.
You've been there, and I'm sure that it's emotional, it's stressful. It's and coaches are high strung, and so I'm sure they go into it knowing, and I'm sure there's coaches that are like, okay, I'm going to hear this all day long, and they have an aptitude to put up with a lot of getting stuff screamed at them. But I'm sure at some point you just reach your end of the rope where you say, okay, that's it. Enough. I'm not going to listen anymore.
Burnsie, I do say that to my kids, so you were right there. I said that this morning to my kids as we were getting ready. Enough. All of you, enough. We're moving on. Enough.
You're the side judge. You're the side.
Exactly. If I had a flag, I would throw it. Enough, guys. Enough. And that was like 6:13 in the morning.
Yeah.
So they're their teachers' problems now.
Hey, what'd you guys think about Brosmer? I thought he was. It's funny. I thought he was uncharacteristically off.
Yep.
I thought he got a lot of pressure on him too. I think you have to give some credit to Illinois. I think they did a good job of making him uncomfortable too throughout. But when moment of truth, he made the throws. But it was I think it was a combination of he was a little wild, and I thought Illinois got some pressure on him that made him wild. And how many throwaways did he have too?
He had a bunch, and there were also, Burnsie, I don't think the receivers had their best day consistently, right? You always see the lack of separation from the press box. I can't see it very much. Illinois was ready for him. Illinois knew that they wanted to throw the ball, and we talked about it all week that Illinois wasn't going to let them just do what they wanted to do. Illinois gets you to play the game on their terms. They're very Big Ten Westian that way. Iowa and Wisconsin. They're not going to let you just be comfortable back there.
Something that was brought up to me all week by people over there was this will be one of the best schemes they go against. There's a reason why Ryan Walters got a head coaching job because of that scheme and how effective it was. I think this word I'm about to use is overused, especially in football, but I would characterize Max's day as gritty. It wasn't great, but in the fourth quarter he showed up. And I think the thing that I also took away more than anything that is, if that is his floor – for where he's at right now, a 60% completion percentage with no turnovers and a touchdown. There's one throw, I think in particular, that stands out to me that was turnover worthy, which off his back foot to Jamison Gears near the end zone was a bad decision. But if that's his floor, Chip, I mean, what a floor that is, especially for a quarterback.
Yeah. Well, and he did a good job. Like when he got flushed, he just threw it away. He wasn't forcing things in. He didn't make bad decisions. And so you're right. Of his in that completion percentage, there had to be 4 or 5 throwaways,
Yeah. Yep.
And so he made good decisions and a couple times he was high or missed on his thing, but that's
Daniel Jackson a couple of times near the end zone, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, but
the first miss to Daniel was the one. That should have been an easy touchdown.
Remind me which one it was.
Moving right to left. It was in the first quarter, wasn't it, Burnsie?
Yeah.
Daniel beat 2 guys, and he was wide open, and it was just a bad throw.
And then it was a third down in the red zone to Daniel Jackson again, where it's a much more difficult throw, but Daniel had some separation there in a double team, and he missed it. But go ahead.
Yeah, but I just like the fact that on a day that it wasn't in rhythm, that when they needed big time plays, they made them. Mm-hmm. Like that's the mark of a mature quarterback. That okay, no matter what's happened up until this point, when you need me, I'm going to make that throw to Jackson, that deep ball was just, I mean, throw and catch was beautiful. I mean that is as perfect of a play as you can have. And so,
what do you think of the fake tush push there to take the lead?
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah. Yeah.
wide open. It was wonderful.
So was PJ saying he overheard the conversation on the headset, and he's like, "Wait a second, what are we doing?"
Yeah, so that's what he said post game. I don't know what he said with you, Guardsy, but we asked him about it, and he said he heard the play call, and he kind of went, "Oh, that's what we're doing," and that's where apparently every offensive assistant was like, "Yeah, great call. Yeah, great call." And then apparently the offensive line coach Brian Callahan, who never talks on the headset, went, I can't do a gravelly Brian Callahan voice, but he was just like, "Yeah, let's do it." And he just Black green lighted it, and wide open, and Gears gets redemption for an earlier drop. But
I wonder how often you rep that in practice. I mean, do you rep that week in practice in case you get it, or is that just something you've had in your back pocket for?
They do red zone.
They probably had in their back pocket because
Yeah.
you've had the tush push in there. You got to have a counter off of it, and now the team's got to prepare for that. But I mean, that is a gutsy position to be able to get that in, and they were able to execute it.
It's happened now twice this season where PJ's talked about hearing the call and having a reaction to it. The 3rd and 2 to Lemecki Brockington at the Rose Bowl on that last drive was the other one where he's like, "Oh, we're going to do that."
I will never forget that play for one reason, because of PJ. I remember right before that play, I looked over at Fleck. He is crouched down picking the grass because he's so nervous. He couldn't even watch.
He can't have the poker face going, huh?
I was just like, oh boy,
he does
this
that
is
a
going
lot.
to be a play call if he can't even watch.
Yeah, he does that a lot when they're in the red zone because it is, I mean, in these games, the difference between 3 and 7 is monumental. The reason why the Gophers could have blown Illinois out on Saturday at times, because they kept kicking field goals, right? Their defense was playing so well. But, yeah, he does whether field turf or grass, when they're in the red zone and it's like the deep red or the green as they call it because that's where the money's made, he's always grabbing the pellets or he's always grabbing the grass. And he said that UCLA one, Harbaugh called the play and then basically turned his microphone off. Basically, we're not discussing this. He's like, this is the play. This is what we're doing.
Is this a new PJ Burnsie in terms of just listening and saying okay, or versus no, we're not doing that. We're doing this.
I do think he has improved in that area, and I think it stems back to Max. I think he trusts Max to execute whatever the play call is, and he trusts Harbaugh that now Harbaugh's built up enough equity in these big spot, 3rd down, red zone, whatever it may be, and they've executed so many times where he may get anxious about it and he may give some feedback, but they're going to stick to it now, which, again, this is an offense we're talking about that has not turned the football over in over 14 quarters.
Right.
Yeah.
So for a man who models his program after the ball is the program, you've got no turnovers in the last 14 quarters. And then defensively, I believe they've got, including turnover on downs, 11 takeaways in that time.
Yeah. I did I put in my football across Minnesota. I think their turnover ratio is 1.33. They're 6th in the country in turnover ratio.
Correct.
1.33. That's how you win 4 straight games in the Big Ten.
Let's talk about the defense when we come back, but here's a number for you to put a bow on the Max Brosmer conversation. This is Trenton, SID. Now he's director of social media for Gopher football, so he's jumped in with us. Max in the 4th quarter in the past 4 games, 23 of 30, that's 76.7%, 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. I didn't even know a QB rating could get this high, but it's 170.1.
Wow.
So he's been pretty good in the 4th quarter, young Max Brosmer. Thank you, Trenton, for that stat. Defense when we come back. But first, let's talk about our friends at Jack's Cafe. They have a 170.1 RR restaurant rating. They are phenomenal. They are great. Holiday dining is right around the corner. If you want to just suggest a cool place, maybe you've got some friends coming back into town for the holidays, the night before Thanksgiving, something like that, or just want to hang out in December or go watch some college or NFL football. The bar is a great spot at Jack's. If you want to go out to a nice family dinner, we've told you it's a wonderful spot to do it. And if you want to have a full-blown 400-person holiday party for your long-lost relatives or Halloween babies across America, you can all be there at Jack's Cafe. They've got room for you. Thanks for getting that, Burnsie. 15 to 400, they've got room for your group, and they've got something for everybody at Jack's Cafe, too.
You always have that zinger. Hey, it's almost holiday season, what I would say. I'm a big gift card guy, right? If you're going to give somebody something, give them a gift card. They can go up, pick out what they want. That would make an incredible stocking stuffer or present for a relative, a family member, gift cards to Jack's, treat them to a nice dinner out. I'm sure they would be happy to load some money on that gift card for you, put it in the envelope, and give it to your coworker or your family member.
Yeah, I think the holiday party angle too, Guardsy. Not only is it they have the space inside to be able to handle 50, 100, or whatever it is people, they've got the parking to be able to handle that,
There you
because
go.
it's not just having the space inside. It's okay, well, if we're going to have it here, there's got to be free, adequate parking right next to it if we're going to execute this, and they certainly do. So if you want to make a reservation, where do I go, Justin?
Well, you can just look straight down, Burnsie, on the YouTube channel. The Pair and a Spare podcast is presented by Jack's Cafe, and you can make your reservations. I'm going to look right now at jackscafe.com. That's JAXcafe.com. We don't often get to talk about the defense finishing the drive or finishing the game, and I talked to Cody Lindenberg on the field, and that was my question to him. I said, we always get to talk. We've gotten to talk to Max about what was going through your head on the last drive. How did you finish this one off? We don't get to do it on defense very often, but they did get to do it. And how about the symmetry from a year ago, Burnsie? You have a 3rd and 13, I think it was, a 3rd and something. You get a strip sack on Illinois, but you don't recover the football. And Illinois gets to run a 4th down play with the 9th-string quarterback, who I think is in the crowd at the game on Saturday. Now out of football. That just shows you how ridiculous that whole situation is. Out of football, Tim Brando was trying to sell Devin Gardner on. He'd be a great candidate for the UFL. Terrific. That's wonderful. But they don't get the fumble a year ago on the final Illinois drive. On Saturday, they got the strip sack. Ja Joyner, as you mentioned it, again, second game this year that he's basically wrecked it, thinking back to USC. And his stat line's not going to be impressive, but his impact cannot be understated.
That was the only play that he was in on that drive, by the way, because he only played 18 snaps, which is a season low for him, because I asked Fleck about it on Monday.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Well, that's the fourth quarter injury with 2 minutes left. You're up 4 touchdowns or 4 scores. Like, why is he in the game? He only plays 18 snaps, but he looked healthy on that one. And this is now the 3rd game between the 2 Coy Parrish interceptions, and now this Ja Joyner forced fumble. Danny Strigo recovers, that they're able to end that game because of it, because they're rolling right down the field. I mean, there was just a huge 3rd down run by Altmaier. But this defense just continues to flummox quarterbacks. I mean, we're talking about a 3rd quarter in which Luke Altmaier didn't complete a pass, and he almost had 2 pick sixes between a tip pass that Maverick Baranowski is 2 feet away from running under in stride, and then Cody Lindenberg has one deflect off his hands. It's a defense that now leads the Big Ten in takeaways. But I also think we got to give some, as the kids would say, Chip, flowers to right after Minnesota goes back in front, Kerry Brown comes through.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about a different freshman safety.
Yeah.
But Kerry Brown continues to play really well. I mean, he comes in on 3rd down with the tackle for loss. He's the man defending the receiver in coverage on 4th down.
Yeah.
What Danny Collins has done with Coy Parrish, Kerry Brown, and even Aiden Gooseby, who has been very, very good for about the last month now. I mean, I just don't think it's been talked about enough.
Yeah, and I thought Coy had a tough game.
I think that was his roughest game.
It was his rough game, yeah.
Collegiate player, which, Chip, it's always easier to learn after a win.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the punt they let roll, and then he was the last line defense on the long run where he missed a tackle there. But Kerry Brown continues to make splash plays when he comes up in support. He had the 2 4th down stops the previous week. Big stops again. He makes these splash plays, these flash plays where they're game altering, And so that's a credit to him. It's a credit to Danny Collins. It's a credit to the scheme. I still think there's just obviously a direct correlation between the pressure that they're getting with their guys up front, with creating errant passes, rush passes, hurried passes. I think I thought Strigow was good. I thought Anthony Smith was really good. I thought he was powerful in pushing his guy back and creating pressure. And so we talked about last week, like rushing coverage. I mean, this is why they're creating so many turnovers, because they're making these quarterbacks either confused or feeling jumpy in the pocket, and they're rushing throws. And so they have some playmakers on this defense, and when they're healthy, they've got some serious playmakers that they're putting them in good places to the scheme fits them. And so when you're creating the kind of turnovers that they are, you're going to win games, because that is the number one stat in football. It's like when you can create this many turnovers and you're not giving the ball away. I mean, I know we joke about it, PJ saying it, but it's true. Like, that's the formula to winning, and that's why they're being so successful right now.
Well, a week after you had 25 pressures and no sacks and 2 tackles for loss, you're able to get 8 tackles for loss, 4 sacks in this game. But that just continues to be the MO of this defense. Is you don't know where the pressure's coming from. It could be Ja Joyner, it could be Anthony Smith, or it could be Kerry Brown blitzing, Coy Parrish blitzing, Cody Lindenberg off the edge. And that's what makes this defense so difficult, especially in passing down situations, 2nd and 3rd and long. They're going to show you 5-6 guys at the line of scrimmage, and they've got a couple of corners in Justin Wally and Ethan Robinson who can cover. Aiden Gooseby, Kerry Brown, Coy Parrish, they can cover. And if there's an errant throw right now, maybe for the last couple of years when the ball didn't bounce Minnesota's way in the turnover luck department, they've got everything rolling right now. Even with their first turnover of the day, where Justin Wally gets him stopped, Danny Strigow comes in with the right club. If Wally picks that up clean initially, that might be a scoop and score.
He was trying.
Yeah, he was trying.
He sniped him, or whoever
sniped him on the second attempt. Yeah,
yep.
I think their linebackers are playing really well too. Maverick, I thought he had a nice game. Cody's, now that he's healthy, he's playing physical. Henderson shows up making splash plays too. I thought it was interesting last week. I think it was you, Burnsie, had asked Logan Redding at a press conference, like in the defense line room, do you guys talk about stats and those things? He's like, nope, impact a quarterback. That's the only thing that's the only stat, or the only thing they talk about, impact a quarterback. And so I know we get fixated on sacks and who has how many and whatnot, but pressures can have the same effect, right? Now you're not losing the yardage, but you're creating turnovers. I think I think a lot of their interceptions are coming because of the pressures that they're getting.
Well, to that point, I think going into last week, I had somebody bring up to me that Minnesota was 13th in the Big Ten in sacks for their defensive line group specifically, but they were number 1 in quarterback hits.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, you might not be getting home on the quarterback to make it 2nd and 18 or kill a 3rd down, but your pressure in the face, I think about so many of Coy Parrish's interceptions. There's pressure in the face. Coy is instinctive and he makes the play, but he needs that pass to just be a little errant or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with this defensive line right now. They're healthy-ish. Now they're going to need the bye week, especially to get Joyner healthy. But if they can get that type of pressure again this weekend, I think there's going to be some more opportunities for turnovers.
All right, we've got a lot to get to here in our final handful of minutes. We want to go around the Big Ten. Burnsie also needs to air some grievances before we are done with some travel experiences that he had getting to Champaign. Burnsie, you are 32 years old, correct?
True statement.
32 years old. So you are 1 year older than the punter at the University of Minnesota, Mark Crawford. If I needed you to get 20 yards on a 4th and 12 fake punt, could you get it for us as a 32-year-old man?
Shot. I'd pull a quad about 10 yards into it.
When do you think the last time Mark Crawford really opened up, took the governor off, and really opened her up? Like
took the governor off.
Asked himself to do. Nobody asked Mark Crawford to do that. Mark Crawford has the ability to decide for himself if he wants to do that. And God bless him, he almost made it. If one of the up guys could have actually gotten a piece of the linebacker or whoever ended up making that play, he might have gotten there. But I just love the fact that our two very personable specialists here in Minnesota, Dragan Kesic and Mark Crawford, now have their own holiday card picture that they could just do side by side together, with Kesic making a complete mess of his fake field goal at the Quick Lane Bowl, and now Mark Crawford, the last Quick Lane Bowl, by the way, it has a new sponsor. And Mark Crawford calling his shot and calling his own number on 4th and 12 in the 4th quarter and coming up just a few yards short.
Yeah, I still can't believe he did that. And I know there's people that are like, it almost worked. My guy, 30-year-old punter, yes, a former rugby player, but I bet you he hasn't run 25 yards in 6 months since like summer conditioning.
No chance.
I asked him, by the way. I asked him on the plane. He was very funny about it and self-deprecating after. But I said, "Hey, what's the they wear those catapult vests to track movement,
How fast you're running?
and how fast you're running. You got guys that are running like 22 miles an hour. And so this is my favorite part. I said, so what's the fastest when you wear the catapult? Like everybody does. What's the fastest you've ever been clocked at?" And he looked at me and goes, "I don't wear the catapult, mate."
Mate.
He doesn't need to. Like, why do I need to wear the catapult? I'm the punter. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going 2 steps and I'm kicking. And then I'm jogging to the sideline. So nobody knows how fast Mark Crawford has ever been clocked at because they haven't found it necessary to check.
I know he has the green light. Maybe put the red light up. I appreciate the man's confidence, but time and score. Time and score, as we say in basketball time.
4th and 12.
Oh, my goodness.
Altmyer hasn't completed a pass yet in the second half. Not only does he have to get the 12 yards, he's 12 yards deep.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's got to run like a total of 25, 30 yards because it's not a straight line.
Yeah.
If you want any indication that no one knew this was going to happen outside of Mark Crawford, to your point with the upbacks, one of them is Derek LeCaptain, who is the most he is the Chip Scoggins of the Gopher football team with how punctual he is. You don't think if he would have known, he would have blocked the one guy or at least got a piece of him that actually made the play? Crawford comes up 2 yards short. I just think I cannot believe that the 30-year-old psychology major of all things was like, okay, time, space, situation. Crawford's actually having a really good punting day at the time.
Yeah.
Offense wasn't doing anything. Let's pin him deep. But he attempts on the 12-yard, 4th and 12. I just could – I was telling you, we were all losing our minds up there.
Well, in his defense, at least it happened so early in the fourth quarter. If you would have pinned him inside the 5 and Illinois went down and scored, they might not have had enough time to come back. So he gave them enough time. Because I think 4 plays later, they were in the end zone. And after all of that, it was 17-16 Illinois. And you're thinking, are they really going to find a way to not win this game again?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's – and when I say this game, I mean the Big Ten West game, whether it's Iowa, Wisconsin, go down the list. Illinois, certainly the last few years. Are they really going to find a way to not win this game? But as we said earlier, Max Brosmer and Daniel Jackson and then Elijah Spencer and Greg Harbaugh saved the day.
Kessage of all people, too.
Yeah.
Big Ten Special Teams Player of the Week, 4 of 4, including big field goal before halftime or even the last field goal that he made. I mean, huge spot there. You're up 22-17. Your future NFL left tackle false starts on the first attempt, so it pushes it back to the 46, and he drills it right down the middle. And now he's now 6 of 6 on field goal attempts since the bye week. We knew that were going to be games in this 3-game stretch that Minnesota's now 2-0 on, that they were going to need their place kicker to find it. And the fact that he is 6-6 and Minnesota's now 2-0, I mean, I give a lot of credit to Kessage. We actually got to talk to him after the game, and I mean, he chronicled that it wasn't the start he wanted. He needed the bye week to kind of correct some things mentally and with his technique, because he even brought up, you look at all 6 of his misses, they're all to the right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he got a reset, and he was huge in that game on Saturday.
They needed all of it, and now they've won 4 in a row and are 6-3 in the top, 5 of the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, tied for 5th.
Yeah, they put themselves in a nice situation to have it, knock off Rutgers this weekend, see what happens the last 2 games. They're going to be in a nice situation here for the bowl game. January 3rd is the Duke's Mayo Bowl, Burnsie. How excited would you be for that one? I know
I'm hoping for Nashville, but unfortunately for you guys, as your bowl representative out there knows, they were just there.
Yeah. That's a whole
By the way, people are going to take that seriously. I need you to give them the 45-second synopsis on what you tell me every single bowl season of late.
Of late, the 45-second version. People wonder, the Gophers have had multiple seasons where they should have been in the mix for the Music City Bowl, which now a lot of people, 20 years ago when Chip was going every single year, it wasn't that cool to go to Nashville. Nashville had not yet become Nash Vegas and the Bachelorette capital of the world and the beer game capital of the world. And I was talking with someone highly affiliated with the Guaranteed Rate Bowl in Phoenix who could not believe their luck that a couple of years ago Minnesota dropped to them, which, by the way, was fun. It was fine. We had a great time. course, Chip didn't come, but
No.
Burnsie and I were there, and it was awesome, right? It was a great experience. People that went had a great time. We chronicled the debacle of opening the roof before the rain came in, and the field was a disaster. But the bowl experience was good. And within this conversation with this person affiliated with the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, they were talking to me about, we couldn't believe that we got you, and Nashville had told us that you'd been there pretty recently, so we didn't want to, so that's why they dropped. And I said, well, what? He said, yeah, there's a board member on the Music City Bowl that is just like anti-Minnesota, basically, because they've been there a lot. And I said, I don't think Minnesota's been at the Music City Bowl since like 2005.
20 years.
At the latest, 2006. And this person, again, this shows you how ludicrous the bowls are in general of who's running these things. He's like, huh, really? It's been that long? I'm like, do you guys do your own research? I mean, is there anybody there like with a packet that says, here's the teams and here's where they've been? Or how do we do this? And so, because there's been multiple times. Nebraska, I think the last bowl game Nebraska went to was the Music City Bowl. Minnesota absolutely should have gone over them that year. But, they wanted to get Nebraska, who, by the way, doesn't travel very well for bowl games because they're used to winning national championships in the 90s, and that's all they care about. But I digress. That just shows you why it's been so long is there's like one person on the Music City Bowl committee that apparently has no concept of time and doesn't understand that 2 decades is not – just recent when it comes to Minnesota being there. Think about how many Minnesotans would go to the Music City Bowl.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, with how the demographic is now of the fan base, we've seen it. We've talked about it extensively. Think about how many – I could be way off, but I feel like, especially this
it'd be a lot.
How much fun this team has been for the hardcore fans that go. It'd be insanity. And it's always insanity in Nashville, but Gopher fans would absolutely go. So, hopefully that happens. That would be great.
I'm going to be so upset if they somehow have to go play in another baseball stadium. I'm so over baseball stadiums and these.
Half the bowl games are in baseball.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
you wouldn't take the Fenway Wasabi Bowl if we got that one somehow, some way? Yeah. I would take that in 1,000 easy.
Well, win this weekend, and you definitely are not going to be going to any type of guarantee rate or pinstripe bowl.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. All right. Let's spin around the Big Ten here real quickly because I do want Burnsie. No, believe it or not, Burnsie hasn't aired his grievances yet. He's just been salty.
We haven't even gotten Narrative Street either.
I know. Oh, yeah, we got to get to Narrative Street. All right, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Narrative Street. Yep.
Lay out the narrative.
We got to get to Narrative Street. This is your week. This is your Super Bowl. If last week was your dad's week for reasons that we discussed, this week is your week, the one you've been waiting for since the schedule came out. November 9th, Piscataway, New Jersey, SHI Stadium, the Fighting Kalliak-Manises, the Fighting Flex, the Fighting Brosmers, the Fighting Shirakas, the Fighting Shianos, they all get to meet up in Piscataway at high noon Eastern at 11 o'clock Central.
It makes an 11 a.m. game in Piscataway a lot more interesting.
Electric? Would you say electric?
It's going to be – you're going to be able to cut the tension in the air during warm-ups, I can guarantee it. But I've had a couple of people be like, what's Narrative Street this week? And all I can think of is like the Grinch's face getting really All right. Well, we'll talk about it. So you got Fleck and Shiano going back to their Tampa Bay days. And most recently, you've got Shiano hiring away Kirk Shiraka from him for a second time, of which the offensive coordinator for Rutgers, Kirk Shiraka, has worked for PJ 3 different times now. And now is at Rutgers. You've got Joe Harris-Simiak, the defensive coordinator, was here at Minnesota during that magical 2019 run, I believe. You've got Corey Heatherman, who Minnesota took from Rutgers, who is Harris-Simiak's number 2. Those two are very close. You've got Greg Harbaugh, who was the mentor. His mentor is Kirk Shiraka for so many years. And then, oh, by the way, the opposing starting quarterback is Ethan Kalliak-Manis, who anytime there's kind of a quarterback separation from a school, it's not always clean.
Yep.
I don't think there's really much ill will at this point, but I can assure you that while Fleck and his staff this week are just going to say it's another game, it's the human element of emotion between all of these guys that know each other, or even just Ethan against his former team, or maybe even Brosmer trying to prove that, he's going against the former quarterback and he was the better option. it's something to where you can't take the emotion out of it. You can tell us that you're not. You can tell us that you're not spun up about it. And that's where I would tell you, I've talked to some people over there, and they're well aware of my narrative street, and that's why they're not going to talk about it. And they're just going to say it's another game. Like, if you read PJ's quotes, they're some of the shortest quotes you will see from PJ Fleck all year.
Yep.
When addressing whether Rutgers, Athen, whatever it may be. But they're well aware of all the different connections, and that's where it's going to be. Greg knows how Kirk likes to game plan. Corey Heatherman knows how Harris Simiak likes to game plan. They know each other very well. So I will say this. I'm very curious to kind of see the first 20 minutes of this game because Rutgers had an extra week to prepare, which Kirk Shiraka off a bye week has been a very good thing for whoever the opposing offense is. Mm-hmm. But I also want to see how Athen is because he hasn't played that bad. I know the stats don't look great, but I think he's been better, which was always the most likely outcome, that Minnesota was going to be better off, Athen was going to be better off in his second year. I would just say, while the coaches aren't going to address it, I'm going to assure you the players aren't going to address it. Everybody knows about the elephant in the room this week, and it makes a Piscataway game a little bit more interesting to follow.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're human, right? And
exactly,
things didn't go well here for Athen, and all the hype that we built up, it didn't go well. PJ went out into the portal the day after the season looking for a quarterback, so it's like, of course he's going to be amped up. Of course coaches are going to, the one thing about the coaches, like, there are no secrets. These guys know each other better than they're good friends. They know each other. They know their tendencies. They know how they think. They've been on each other's staff. So there's going to be no surprises. To me, it's just going to come down to whoever executes better and whoever is able to harness their emotions and all the adrenaline and all the feelings that they have about trying to prove this, whatever they want to prove on Saturday. If they can harness that and not get, out of character or out of whatever, because there's going to be nerves. These guys are. You think Athen doesn't want to have the best game of his season on Saturday? Of course he does. You think Max doesn't want to have the best game of his season? Of course he does. So
it's play callers where it's like, or like Heatherman knows exactly what Harris Simiak wants to do. Kirk, or Greg knows what Kirk wants to do. So you don't think there's going to be like a moment or two of hesitation when you're thinking to yourself, is he going to try to counter this because he knows what I'm thinking? Again, there are some, in my mind, in my opinion, some mental hoops that these guys, whether they want to address it or not, to chip the human element of this game.
And they're not going to talk about it, obviously, because then that feeds your narrative, and you get your clicks there, Ryan. So
yeah, you know me, I'm a guy.
No, I mean that's PR 101. Nobody's going to talk about the elephant in the room when there's one there. But we can.
We will.
We're here.
We'll write about it. Stop it. Doesn't prevent us. We're still going to write it. And talk about it.
Unlike Mike Sanford versus Joe Rossi, which Burnsie tried to get burning a couple of years ago, this is an actual.
This is legit.
This is an actual big time narrative. I mean, there's narratives. I mean, there's like Narrative Street, and then there's Narrative Lane, and then there's Narrative Boulevard, and then there's Narrative Avenue, and they're all just little cul-de-sacs. And here's the Callie-McManus one, here's the Shiraka one, here's the Shiano one, here's the Brosmer one. This is a big neighborhood. There's a big neighborhood on Narrative Street right now.
Well, that's the thing. Is like, you think Fleck doesn't want to beat Shiano? His mentor.
Totally.
I mean, this is Narrative Highway. This is
Narrative Interstate.
This is a 6-lane highway going here, so it'll be fun. I mean, it'll be. You're right. A Minnesota Rutgers game on outside of the two markets probably don't, but there's in terms of storylines.
It's on NBC at 11 a.m.
There's great storyline. If you're NBC, it's like, heck, you can tell these storylines all day long. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and the Gophers, actually, they draw pretty well eyeball-wise, nationally.
Yeah.
All these Big Ten teams do. I don't know if Rutgers necessarily does, but Minnesota does. And this is a big game for the Gophers. I mean, you break down all the narratives. Like, you think about all the goodwill that they've built up over the last month, the position that they put them in. We just talked about it, that they can set themselves up for a really nice bowl game in the Big Ten pecking order, and one that fans have heard of, whether it's the Mayo Bowl or Nashville, or one that they've heard of for good reasons.
You could be going to Florida if you win this one.
Exactly. So you're
Yeah.
putting yourself, and we saw Wisconsin is a wreck right now. You've got them on the schedule. Penn State, who knows what off of your bye, what kind of shape they're going to be in. You've got James Franklin yelling at fans. They lost to Ohio State again at home, the whole bit. So you've got an incredible opportunity in front of you, not to win the Big Ten West, like we've talked about so many times over the years here, not to go to the college football playoff, but this is about coming off the Iowa and Michigan game. You can't ask for a better opportunity than what you've got here in these final 3 weeks, and that starts with a game where you're favored, right, Burnsie, on the road against Rutgers.
Right now.
You're almost a touchdown favorite on the road.
6 point? Wow. Yeah, because Rutgers has lost 4 in a row, right? And before we came on here, I was looking at their schedule. You don't get a schedule like that very often in terms of
Rutgers schedule.
Yeah, they have to be kicking themselves when you look at who they've played. You don't face Ohio State, Oregon, or Penn State. You've lost 4 in a row, and you're at the bottom of the. They're next to last or near the bottom of the Big Ten in the standings. So it's with that schedule, that's not what I'm sure that's not what they envisioned for their season.
And they've been very banged up, which plays a part in this. And we'll see who comes back, including their running back Kyle Monungai, who is very much Mo Ibrahim reincarnate. With not the biggest guy in the world, but he is the king of making somebody miss and getting the hard yards after tackle. So Minnesota's going to have to tackle well. I mean, the game plan, if you're Corey Heatherman, is going to be stop Monungai and then make Ethan Kaliak-Manis beat you for 60 minutes. Because we talked on this podcast last year. First half Ethan versus second half Ethan was always very different. Now, if Ethan strings together 60 minutes of football, good for him. But that's what it's going to be, is force Ethan Kaliak-Manis and Kirk Soraka to drop him back 40 times to beat you.
All right. I don't want the salt to wear off, Burnsie, because I can tell the wound is still fresh from whatever you dealt with on the way to Champaign, Illinois. We've got about 5 minutes to just let you go, and we'll give you some advice and as seasoned travelers here. But when I saw you Saturday morning in the Memorial Stadium press box, you just didn't seem to have that usual Burnsie pep. It seemed like you went through some stuff on Saturday. So what happened, and what can we help you with?
Boy, or even Sunday morning, I was delayed 4.5 hours in the Champaign airport, which you can't even call an airport. There are 2 gates. There are literally 2 gates. There's not
they even have
like,
electricity to charge your phone?
That was the only thing they had. They didn't even have like coffee, anything. How do you not have coffee at an airport at 5 a.m? But here are my grievances. Now, I've traveled quite a bit on an airplane in my life. I've been very fortunate in that regard.
Hashtag blessed.
Yeah. I still cannot believe the amount of people that I see. I saw 4 different people, I counted, between my travel on Friday and Sunday, take off their shoes with no socks on the airplane.
Yeah, that's...
Do we have no self-awareness as a society anymore?
No, we don't.
No. Yeah, that's a.
I don't understand that one either.
That's a penalty flag. That's a 15-yarder.
So my next one would be
The only way where that's acceptable is if you're sitting with your family. If there's 3 people in the row, and like this. Now I wouldn't do this.
And it's your kids. It's your kids.
But if you're sitting window, and then you've got your wife or husband or spouse or kids or grandma or whoever next to you, and there's no one else around you in your row. I might even say it has to extend to the other side of the aisle, too.
You got to have the whole 6.
Where no one has to be exposed or see your feet. That's my only amendment to this, but I'm with you 100%. I don't take my shoes off on the plane, of course not. But that's it happens all the time. The best is when they'll actually cross their legs with their bare feet. Or put their feet near your armrest. It's like, what are we doing here?
We need to get people out and about more often, and somebody needs to have some conversations with them. Now, the second one would be, I had one person next to me on the airplane crack open a brand new bag of beef jerky, and the other one had a tuna sandwich from one of those grab-and-go places.
That's tough.
Guys, gals, whoever you are,
yep.
I don't care if you're next to me. I bet you I could smell that jerky 5 rows behind. You don't need to be bringing a beef jerky or a tuna and egg sandwich onto these planes.
Tuna should not be sold at the airport.
No, or egg sandwich or egg salad. No. Yeah, I'm a beef jerky fan, but I won't do it on a plane. Yeah, that's
me too.
That's a penalty flag too.
Like cracking open a fresh bag of it was like teriyaki jerky. I'm happy for you. That's a healthy choice.
It does sound good.
Yeah. But the entire plane doesn't need to smell it for this hour flight. You could have just I was just
Did
like,
it mask the smell of the feet at least? Maybe that's the thing. It
well, that was it. It was
wafted over the feet.
teriyaki and like foot. It was quite the.
Was it the same person?
No, it was
Okay.
not. Which made
Okay,
it.
so you've got feet, you've got jerky, you've got tuna. What else do you got?
All right, so here's the last one, and this is going to be the
This
one.
is a miserable flight, man. Well, this is like the flight from hell.
Oh my
And you had to connect in O'Hare, which is a miserable place to connect to.
Yeah,
I've
it's
had
like
to
a
do
20-minute
exactly what
walk.
I had to do exactly what you do. Fly to O'Hare, get on a bus. You have no idea if you're on the
Yeah.
right bus. You're driving on some random terminal, and then you have to go up the stairs. You don't know where you're going. O'Hare is a nightmare. I mean, we are so
Yeah.
lucky. Like, I usually don't do the cliche, oh, this airport's this and that. With O'Hare, I will. O'Hare is tough sledding, man.
Yeah.
So it's tough sledding. But go ahead.
So the last one is, and I know I'm going to get the most amount of pushback from our listeners and from you guys, but this one is, I am so against reclining seats. Where
yeah.
I had two different people. Now, on my flight back, I got automatically rebooked by American, so I was in a middle seat, which is a 6'4" guy. I'm very self-conscious of that.
Yeah.
Because I know the whole man spread. I have wide shoulders. Like, I'm sitting there, knees together, trying not to take up too much space because nobody wants to sit next to me. I know that. We all know that. But I had two different people. Like, on the way down, I had a guy who couldn't have been, and look, this is going to sound very heightist of me. He's like 5'6" in front of me.
Yeah.
Reclines the seat immediately.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
here's my thing. If you want to recline your seat, what
Ask.
I think is the acceptable thing of notion here is you turn around, you make eye contact with them, and then you recline it. And either they go like, yeah, that's fine, or like, you just don't put it back.
Yeah.
He got asked to put it up by the flight attendant before we took off. And then the moment she went away, he tried to put it back instantaneously. And let me tell you, my knees have never been so far forward in my entire life, letting him know, like,
Ain't
no,
happening.
dude, like, what does he need the extra space for?
Yeah.
At what point, like, I understand, like, I try to book exit rows anytime I can because, look, I'm a tall guy. But I can tell you with definitive knowledge, I have never once in my life reclined my seat. And I just think it's insane
Yeah.
to, like, recline your seat without looking behind you to see, because it's not you. Oh, great, you get to go back another 10 degrees.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
look behind you to see. Like, okay, so what do you?
I'm team no recline. I know the argument. I pay for the seat. I can do whatever I want. I just think it's a courtesy thing. I don't recline.
I don't recline either, Burnsie, but I will say they shouldn't make them reclinable if that's not an option for people.
Yeah.
Like, all the seats are reclinable. I also agree with you. You have to have some awareness of your surroundings. Look around.
Yeah. See who's behind you. Yeah.
Is there somebody that's, and thank God you have those broad shoulders for all the weight you're carrying here on these flights in Champaign. But if I turn around and go, this person is already uncomfortable, I'm not going to add to their discomfort. I think that's always fair. But again, I don't recline, just same thing as Chip. Because I've been reclined on, and it's not fun, especially if you're packed in one of these planes and you've got your bag underneath your seat and the whole bit. So I agree with you. Like, a guy like you should not be reclined on because you're already in a tough situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Given that, you were born 6'4" and you've got the broad shoulders and all of that. So, but here, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I got to get something for you. I got to get something for you.
Game ball.
No, I'm going to send this over to you.
Keep my own water, baby.
I've got the cafe in, or can we get this for Burnsie? Keep rowing the boat, Burnsie. Just keep your oar in the water. You've got to get to Newark, New Jersey this week. You going to be able to do it?
Yeah. Well,
How salty was him? Bare feet, jerky, and a guy that's 5'2" reclining on him.
I can't believe some of the people that fly, man. It was just like, is it everybody's first time on an airplane? That's where, thankfully, this weekend, Guardsy, we get to go on a nonstop on Delta, of which I got exit rows, so then I get a little bit extra room. Like, look, I know how large I am, so I try to make it easy on myself and everybody else around me. It's just, let's have some common sense with some of these things on an airplane.
No, yeah.
Something happens between the lines at the airport. People get there and they lose all sense of anything. They just
Yeah.
can't do it. It's a great experiment in the human
Condition.
nature.
Yeah.
Human condition. Yeah. None of us, I don't think, are at our best at the airport. And it's just to what degree are you going to have a total meltdown of some sort? People just do, whether they can't figure out their bag, they can't figure out this, they're hoarding at the gate to try to board, they're standing when it says walk on the moving walkway. Like, it's just, they're forgetting things in their pocket at security. Like, it's just, no one is their best self at the airport. It's a stressful situation for some people. And
I'm the same guy.
Yeah, well, that is the one thing. You're consistent.
I'm consistent.
You're neurotic everywhere. It's not just at the airport. Every day your stress level's up this. Do I have enough charge? Am I leaving my house early enough? Am I at the stadium early enough? Yeah, your life, they say
I'm a mess.
Travels. You're a mess no matter what. Psychologically, academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually.
Well, I tell you, if anybody has disagree with us, you can send an email to Randy Byrne at sportsbylineusa.com.
He wants to hear from you. That's right.
All right. Well, Chip, are you coming to Newark? You going to join us?
No.
Oh, okay. Chip's going to miss it. He made it to L.A. at least. That was great.
I'll be at Penn State home and Wisconsin road.
There we go. Love it. The final 2 games of the season. Burnsie, we will see you in Piscataway or someplace near there. I don't know exactly where we're going to be. I don't know exactly where you're going to be, but we'll get it all done. A couple of reminders. Subscribe to the new YouTube channel if you want to see how far Burnsie reclines his chair when I talk about him being a Halloween baby, or that last week was for his dad. There's a good recline right there. You can see how many times Chip takes a drink during the show if you like, and you can see my game balls if you want, and my Clem Haskins Play Hard towel from 1996. All of that here on the YouTube channel, the Parent to Spare YouTube channel. We'd love it if you subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review, leave a comment for us there. Subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and make your reservations for an unbelievable dinner, date night, holiday party, whatever it is, at jaxcafe.com. That's JAXcafe.com. Have a great week, everybody. We will talk to you next week on the Pair and a Spare podcast.